He gave her a coat and triggered a galactic war. He doesn't want the throne. He doesn't even know what he is. But entire fleets are hunting him. Prophecies are naming him. And now the universe is watching. Hit play, because this is how legends are accidentally born. The starship Wanderer's Veil drifted through the endless black, its engines purring with a low, steady hum that felt like the heartbeat of some ancient beast. Inside, in a chamber lit only by the faint glow of a crystalline orb, Elder Syra knelt, her weathered hands brushing across glyphs that shimmered like liquid starlight. The orb pulsed in time with the distant constellation of Vera, and Syra's voice was barely a whisper as she spoke to the circle of initiates around her. The signs converge. The third moon rises over the seventh shrine, a young initiate. Her teal skin, unmarked by the years, hesitated before speaking. Elder, we've studied these omens for lifetimes. Why now? Syra's gaze, heavy with centuries of watching, fixed on her. Because, young one, the echo of grace has stirred. Murmurs rippled through the group. The echo of grace, a rare cosmic hum, said to sing only when a soul of immense strength moved among the ordinary, cloaked in quiet restraint. Where? Asked an older initiate, his voice tight. Syra's finger traced a path across a holographic star field, landing on a forgotten speck, a jagged asteroid called Kren 9, home to scrap traders and lost dreams. There, she said, the awakening begins. The initiates exchanged uneasy looks. Their sacred scrolls told of this moment. A figure who shunned glory, yet carried the weight of galaxies, destined to free the shackled worlds when the third moon crowned the seventh shrine. Syra rose, her robes whispering against the floor. Send word to our kin across the Valthar expanse. The prophecy breathes. Alone now, she stared at the orb as it flickered, revealing a fleeting image. A faded canvas coat, rough and unremarkable, yet humming with a power that made her breath catch. An outsider, she murmured. How curious. On Kren 9, the Iron Sparrow touched down with a groan that shook the docking bay's rusty frame. In the cockpit, Elias Kane winced, tugging at the frayed collar of his canvas coat. For a ship this pricey, you'd think they'd fix the landing struts, he muttered. From the seats behind him, two identical voices chuckled in unison. The Sparrow runs on grit and promises, said Pip, the smaller of his companions, her eyes glinting with a wisdom far older than her childlike frame suggested. Just like your wardrobe, added Grim, her twin, his perpetual frown deepening. Elias ignored them, powering down the controls as the bay's cameras revealed Kren 9's grim terrain, craters, scrap heaps, and domes cobbled together from salvaged hulls. This wasn't a place anyone chose to visit, it was where you landed. When the universe ran out of options. Refresh my memory, Elias said, leaning back. Why are we here? Pip and Grim shared a look, the kind that always made him feel like they were holding a silent council. Fuel stop, Pip said, too brightly. Routine repairs, Grim added, almost at the same time. Elias squinted at them. Despite their tiny statures, barely 4 feet, with oversized heads and delicate limbs, their dark, pupilless eyes held a sharpness that unsettled him. Right, he said dryly, and I'm the Lord of the Cosmos. He didn't catch the way they stiffened at his words, or the glance they exchanged. Let's make this quick, he said, standing. I want off this rock before the next shift change. Place has a bad vibe. 20 minutes later, Elias strode down the Sparrow's ramp into the docking bay's stale air. The gravity was patchy, making each step feel like a gamble. Pip and Grim trailed him, each hauling crates that should have crushed them under their weight. The bay reeked of oil and despair, and the handful of workers who noticed them barely looked up. New faces meant nothing here, just more trouble passing through. Elias scanned the area, instincts sharp from years of dodging problems. 4 figures. Near the bay's exit caught his eye, too still, too watchful. Trouble at 3 o'clock, he muttered. We see 'em, Grim replied softly. Want us to deal with it? Pip asked, a spark in her tone. No, Elias said firmly. We're here and gone, no messes. But the 4 were already. moving, fanning out like predators. Their leader, a wiry woman with a cracked optic implant and a smirk that screamed bad news, blocked Elias's path. "Port tax," she said, hand outstretched. 700 credits. Elias stopped, keeping his distance. "I paid the standard fee to the dockmaster." Her smirk widened. "This is the visitor's levy. Keeps your ship from getting scratched." He sighed, sensing the script. Scratched by what? Her optic whirred as it focused on him. Accidents. Cargo goes missing. People trip into recycling chutes. Nasty stuff. Elias's shoulders slumped, not from fear, but from the inevitability of it all. "I'd like to pass, please." She laughed, glancing at her crew, who'd closed the circle around them. He'd like to pass. Polite, isn't he? One of her men, a gaunt figure with a blade gleaming at his hip, nodded. "Too polite. Needs to learn how Kren 9 works." Elias's voice stayed even. "I don't want trouble." The leader's hand dipped into her vest, pulling a stun rod that crackled with violet energy. "Should have thought of that before." "Landing on Varka's turf," she said, lunging. What happened next defied the onlookers' expectations. The rod arced toward Elias's chest, but he was already gone. Not with a dodge or a leap, but a subtle shift, as if the air itself had nudged him aside. The rod sliced empty space. "Please," Elias said, calm as ever, "don't." Furious, the leader swung again, faster. Elias moved again, catching her wrist with a gentleness that belied its strength. With a flick, he sent her stumbling into a pile of crates 10 feet away. The other 3 hesitated, then charged, weapons drawn. It wasn't a fight so much as a dance. Elias flowed between them, never striking, only guiding their momentum. A shove sent one sprawling into a wall. A sidestep tripped another into his own blade's path, leaving him dazed. In moments, all 4 lay groaning, their weapons scattered. Elias hadn't even pulled his hands from his coat pockets. The bay went quiet, workers staring, tools frozen mid-motion. Elias walked to the leader, who was clutching a bruised arm, and offered his hand. "Sorry about that. You okay?" Her optic blinked wildly as she took his hand, letting him pull her up. "What are you?" she stammered. Elias shrugged. "Just passing through. Tell this Varka, I'm not looking for problems. We'll be gone soon." She nodded, backing away as her crew limped off. Pip whispered to Grim, "He's gonna feel bad about this later, isn't he?" Grim's frown softened. "Always does. Classic third-tier grace." Elias adjusted his coat, ignoring the whispers already spreading. Tossed Varka's crew like rags, didn't even flinch, then helped her up. "Let's move," he said to Pip and Grim. But before they could cross the bay, alarms wailed. Red lights pulsed as a robotic voice droned, "Warning! Plasma storm approaching. Category 5. All external operations suspended. Lockdown in 15 minutes. Groans echoed from the workers securing their gear. Kren 9's plasma storms were legendary. Charged particles that could fry circuits and burn through hulls in seconds. "Looks like we're stuck," Elias said, his jaw tightening. "The Cosmos has a plan," Pip offered, cryptic as ever. "The Cosmos needs a better planner," Elias shot back, heading for the habitat entrance. Then he stopped, senses catching something, a faint distress pulse, nearly lost in the storm's interference, coming from outside. "Someone's out there," he said, already turning toward the airlock. Grim's voice was sharp. "Storm hits in minutes. Then I'd better be fast," Elias replied, breaking into a jog. The bay supervisor tried to block him. "Airlocks sealed. Storm protocol." Elias didn't slow, punching an override code into the panel. "Someone's stranded." The supervisor grabbed his arm. "You'll die out there." Elias gently freed himself. "I'll be fine. To Pip and Grim," he added. "Guard our cargo. I'll be back." Before they could argue, he cycled through the airlock, the outer door hissing open to reveal a sky boiling with violet and crimson plasma. The storm was close, its leading edge already sparking across the asteroid's surface. Elias activated his tracker, locking onto the signal. A kilometer out near an old salvage yard, he ran, not impossibly fast, just steady, his coat flapping as the first plasma burst stung his skin. He pulled the collar higher, shielding his face. Minutes later, he spotted the source, a sleek, damaged scout ship, its hull scorched with blast marks that screamed attack, not accident. It had crashed recently, smoke curling from its wreckage. Elias approached cautiously. The distress beacon flickered from the cockpit, but a trail of disturbed gravel led away, footprints fresh but fading as the storm's wind erased them. Someone had survived. He followed the trail, the plasma storm now a glowing wall devouring the horizon. The prints grew uneven, staggered, as if their owner was hurt. Then he saw her, slumped against a jagged boulder, barely sheltered from the storm's fury. She was Valthari, teal skin dulled by dust, blood matting her silver hair. Her breathing was shallow, a gash across her temple leaking steadily. A faint, glowing sigil marked her brow, a crest of Valthar's high houses. The storm was seconds away. Elias stripped off his coat, wrapping it around her to shield her face and wounds, then lifted her effortlessly. She stirred, murmuring something he couldn't catch. The storm hit as he turned back, a wave of charged particles that tore at his exposed skin. He hunched over her, shielding her with his body, and pushed forward. Each step was a fight against the wind, his flesh burning under the plasma's assault. Blood trickled down his arms, but he ignored it. Pain was just noise. The habitat's lights flickered ahead, faint through the storm's haze. He focused on them, willing each step closer. When he stumbled through the airlock, a crowd had gathered, drawn by the supervisor's shouts. Gasps followed as he emerged, blood-streaked, carrying the Valthari woman. "Medic!" Elias called, voice cutting through the decontamination sprays. A doctor, older, with a cybernetic eye, pushed through. "Medical bay now." Elias followed. Laying the woman on a table, the doctor scanned her. Valthari physiology, concussion, internal bruising, dehydration. "I can stabilize her." He glanced at Elias's raw, bleeding skin. "You're a mess too." "I'm fine," Elias said. "Focus on her." The doctor grunted but didn't argue, hooking her to a region unit. Pip and Grim appeared silently at Elias's side. "That was reckless," Grim muttered. "Couldn't leave her," Elias replied. Pip's eyes softened. "Noble but loud. People noticed." Elias shrugged, wincing as his torn skin protested. "People see what they want." A faint groan came from the table. The woman's eyes fluttered open, gold-flecked, sharp despite her pain. They locked onto Elias, widening with something like recognition. "You!" she whispered, voice like distant chimes. "You brought me back." Elias shifted uncomfortably. "Anyone would have," the doctor snorted. "Not in a Category 5 plasma storm. You've got a death wish, friend." She studied Elias, then the coat still draped over her. "You gave me your shield at your own cost." Her voice grew stronger, tinged with wonder. Elias waved it off. "It's just a coat." She struggled to sit, ignoring the doctor's protests, her gaze never leaving him. "Your name, please." "Elias Kane," he said simply. "And you?" She straightened, regal despite her injuries. "I am Lyrian, daughter of House Vale, 4th of the 7th tier." She paused, studying him again. "But you don't claim your strength. You risk yourself for a stranger, refuse praise. You are the one foretold, the sovereign of the third moon." Elias blinked, caught off guard. Behind him, Pip stifled a laugh. "I'm no sovereign," he said firmly. "Just a guy who heard your signal." Lyrian's lips curved faintly, as if she knew something he didn't. "Exactly what the third, a moon's chosen, would say." The doctor finished his scans. "She'll recover, but she needs rest. Storm's locking us down for at least a day." As the doctor left, Elias turned to Lyrian. "Who's after you?" Her expression tightened. "How did you know?" "Your ship was shut down. That's no crash." She glanced at the door, lowering her voice. "Operatives of the High Warden. They've hunted me across 4 sectors." "The High Warden?" Elias prompted. "Valthar's interim ruler," she explained. "He holds the 7th tier, the highest without celestial mandate. He ensures no third moon sovereign rises to challenge him." Elias sighed. Politics always complicated things. "Once the storm clears, we'll get you somewhere safe. Neutral territory, maybe." Lyrian's eyes hardened. "I don't need safety. I need you." Elias frowned. "Me? You are the prophecy's heart," she said. "The one who rejects power, who will shatter the tiers and free our worlds." Elias ran a hand through his hair, dust falling like ash. "I'm not your savior. I'm just a hauler who lent you a coat." Her smile returned, knowing. "Precisely." Hours later, in the medical bay's dim glow, Elias sat watching Lyrian sleep. The storm raged outside, its howl muffled by the habitat's wall. His skin had already begun to heal, the raw patches fading faster than any human should. It was a reminder of what he'd always suspected. He wasn't entirely like the people around him. Lyrian stirred, her golden eyes finding him instantly. "You stayed," she said softly. "You're hurt and hunted," he replied. "Seemed right." She studied him. "They say your kind, humans, are driven by gain, by fleeting desires." Elias shrugged. "Some are, some aren't, same as anyone." She sat up slowly, testing her strength. "Where are your companions? The small ones with eyes like ancient seas." Elias raised an eyebrow. Most didn't notice Pip and Grimm's oddities so quickly. "Handling supplies, they're friends, good ones." Lyrian nodded, accepting the vague answer. "Is there somewhere I can wash? I feel like I'm carrying half of Kren 9. He pointed to a small washroom. When she returned, her teal skin gleamed faintly. Her silver hair swept back to reveal the sigil on her brow. The oversized med scrubs only made her look more determined. "Thank you," she said, handing back his coat. "Cleaned somehow." Elias took it, nodding. "We'll find you proper gear tomorrow. Then we talk options." She agreed but didn't return to the bed. Instead, she crossed to a viewport, staring at the storm's violet chaos. "It's like Valthar's ion gale," she murmured. "They sweep the highlands every cycle, reshaping the stone." "You miss it," Elias observed, settling into a chair. "I miss what it could be," she corrected, "not what it is." At his prompting, she described Valthar, a world of shimmering cliffs and rigid tiers, where status was everything, and climbing the hierarchy was a dream dangled just out of reach. "The higher tiers hoard power," she said, "but they wield it quietly. Restraint is their mark. So how does anyone reach the third moon's tier?" Elias asked. "They don't," Lyrian said, her voice distant. "Not anymore. That tier is for the sovereign, a soul so balanced in strength and humility that power seeks them, not the other way around." Elias leaned back, sensing the prophecy creeping in again. "And the High Warden? He claims to guard the path." "To the third moon," she said, "but he destroys anyone who might walk it. For centuries he's kept Valthar frozen." Elias met her gaze. "And you think I'm your sovereign?" Her certainty didn't waver. "I know it. You act without ego, save without reward, stand calm in chaos. It's you." "I'm just a guy trying to do what's right," he countered. Her smile was soft, enigmatic. "The scrolls said you'd deny it. That's how we'd know." Elias rubbed his temples, a headache forming. "It's late. Rest." He led her to a spare bunk in the quarters Pip and Grim had secured, then retreated to his own. The shower washed away the storm's grime, but not the questions circling his mind. Sleep took him quickly, exhaustion winning out. He woke to a soft weight. On the bunk, Lyrian sat beside him, her teal skin glowing faintly in the dark. "Lyrian," he said, instantly alert. "What's this?" Her golden eyes held a quiet intensity. "On Valthar, we honor debts with closeness, a sharing of spirit." Elias sat up, keeping space between them. "That's kind, but where?" "I'm from. Gratitude doesn't work that way." Her face fell briefly. "You refuse my gift?" "I'm refusing something you feel you owe," he clarified. "You don't need to repay me." Her eyes widened, a hand rising to her lips. "By the third moon," she whispered. "It's true. You are him." Elias groaned. "Lyrian, I'm not." "The scrolls," she interrupted, "say the sovereign will thrice refuse honors, for their heart seeks no claim." She stood, bowing slightly. "This is the first refusal." Elias shook his head. "Get some sleep." No bowing. Before she could reply, the door hissed open. Pip and Grim stepped in, freezing at the sight of Lyrian. "Bad timing?" Pip asked, smirking. "No," Elias said. "She's leaving." Lyrian inclined her head. "Of course, sovereign." She slipped out, leaving Elias glaring at his companions. "Don't," he warned. Grim raised a hand. "She thinks you're Valthar's mythic ruler." "Interesting. How do you know about that?" Elias asked, eyes narrowing. Pip hopped onto a crate. "We know things. Valthari prophecies are detailed." Elias leaned forward. "Then explain why you're with me, why you've always been there." They exchanged a glance. "We observe," Grim said. "Guide sometimes. You're important. Elias's frustration grew, but before he could push, alarms blared again. The storm was fading, but something else was stirring. In the common area, two Valtharian forces in sleek grey armor questioned workers, their sigils matching the High Warden's. Lyrian tensed beside Elias. "Trackers," she whispered. "They've found me." Elias assessed the room. "Pip, Grim, distraction. We're heading for the Sparrow." They nodded, slipping toward a control panel. Seconds later, lights flickered, and a maintenance alert sent workers scrambling. Elias guided Lyrian through the chaos, but a voice cut through. "Stop!" By the Warden's command, an enforcer leveled a pulse rifle at them. Elias stepped in front of Lyrian. "We're just leaving." The enforcer's gaze flicked to Lyrian's sigil. "The rogue heir," he growled. "Stand down, outsider." Elias's voice stayed steady. "She's with me." The enforcer fired, a bolt meant to kill. It struck Elias's chest, sizzling harmlessly, leaving only a singed patch on his coat. The enforcer froze. In a blur, Elias closed the gap, twisting, the rifle free and crumpling it like foil. "I asked nicely," he said, stepping back. The enforcer fled. They reached the Sparrow as Pip and Grim caught up. The ship roared to life, breaking orbit just ahead of a Warden patrol. In hyperspace, Elias turned to Lyrian. "Where to?" Her eyes gleamed. "Drift Nexus. My people, exiles, rebels are there. They'll join us." "Us?" Elias raised an eyebrow. "I'm dropping you off." Her smile was unshaken. "Of course, Sovereign." Drift Nexus was a sprawling station carved into a rogue asteroid, a haven for those skirting galactic law. Elias docked the Sparrow in a shadowed bay, paying for discretion. "Refuel, connect you with your rebels, then I'm gone," he told Lyrian. She nodded, but her expression suggested she saw a different path. As they moved through the station, Elias noticed eyes following. Not just Lyrian, but him. Whispers trailed them. "That's him, the one from Kren 9. In the central hub, a crowd waited. Valthari, exiles from tiered worlds, their faces lit with hope. At their head stood two figures. Kyle, a broad-shouldered warrior with a plasma axe slung across his back, and Vryn, a slight scholar clutching a data slate. Her green skin flushed darker as she met Elias's gaze. Lyrian stepped forward, voice ringing. "I bring Elias Kane, the sovereign of the Third Moon, hidden in plain sight." The crowd knelt as one. Elias's protests stalled as Kale approached, bowing. "I am Kale, Blade of the Lost Tears. We've waited for you." Vryn stammered. "Vryn, Chronicler, I've tracked your signs for decades." Elias shot a look at Pip and Grim, who lounged at the edge, smirking. "This is a mistake," he began, but a shout interrupted. Station guards, led by a grim-faced commander, pushed through. "Break this up! No unsanctioned gatherings!" Kyle stood firm. "This is our right, Commander Tor." Torv's eyes locked on Elias. "You're the one they're calling sovereign. The Warden's got a bounty on you." Elias stepped forward. "No trouble here, we'll leave." Torv signaled his men. "Take him." A guard lunged, stun baton sparking. Elias caught it mid-swing, bending it effortlessly. "I don't want to fight," he said, voice low. The guards hesitated, then backed off, Torv muttering threats as they retreated. The crowd buzzed. Vryn whispered, "The first tenet, all choose their path." Elias turned to Lyrian. "This is dangerous. Disperse them." Kyle shook his head. "We're already hunted. The Warden's culling grows worse." Vryn led them to a hidden arena, a smuggler's den where rebels met under the guise of fight nights. In a shielded booth, Kyle faced Elias. "We plan Valthar's liberation." Elias raised a hand. "I'm not your general. I'm getting Lyrian to safety, then I'm out." Lyrian nodded to Pip, who produced a glowing shard. It projected a map of Valthar's defenses. "This moves with or without you," Grim said softly. Memories surged in Elias, his father's voice, urgent, pushing him toward Pip and Grim as alarms wailed. "Trust them. Stay kind." The arena's roar snapped. In back, a fighter below bellowed, "Where's this sovereign? I'll break him for the Warden's coin." Elias ignored the taunt, staring at the shard. "You knew," he said to Pip and Grim. "Who I am?" Pip nodded. "Always." Then tell me, Elias demanded. Grimm's eyes closed briefly. Your father was a keeper, hiding you on a fringe world. He wasn't blood, but he raised you, died to protect you. Elias's chest tightened. What am I? Not fully human, Pip said. A blend, human genes woven with something ancient. The crowd's chants grew louder, calling for the sovereign. Lyrian took Elias's hand. Does it matter? What you are? You're the man who saved me, who acts without pride. Before he could respond, Kale burst in, axe drawn. Warden's troops, they're raiding the station. Elias stood. Get everyone to the Sparrow. We'll hold as many as we can. Vryn hesitated. The others? Signal your ships, Elias said. Rendezvous beyond the nebula. As they fled, word of Kren IX's miracle spread. Tales of a man who bent rifles bare-handed, faced storms, shielded a fugitive with his coat. Within weeks, Valthari exiles rallied, ships bearing a canvas sigil, striking Warden outposts. Elias watched from a rebel frigate's bridge, uneasy. They're not fighting for me, he told Vryn. They're fighting for freedom. They fight in your name, Kyle countered. Pip monitored a console. Wardens massing at Valthar, fortified defenses. Elias studied the scans. No bombardment. Too many civilians. Lyrian entered, now a commander, her presence steady. The fleet's ready for Valthar. Elias pulled her aside. I don't want this role. Her gaze softened. That's why it's yours. He sighed, then gave the order. Jump. The fleet emerged at Valtar's edge, facing the Warden's armada. Elias opened a channel. The Warden appeared, tall, severe, his teal skin etched with rank. Surrender the pretender, he snarled. Elias faced him. I'm Elias Kane. I don't want your throne or your war. I want your people free to choose. A flicker of doubt crossed the Warden's crew. Fire! He roared, but his officers hesitated, citing ancient rights. One spoke. The third, Moon's claim, demands trial. Chaos erupted on the Warden's bridge as guards restrained him, invoking a test of essence. A transmission followed. Sovereign, come to Valthar for the trial. Elias glanced at Lyrian, who nodded. I'll go, he said. Pip's voice was urgent. It's more than ceremony. It'll awaken what's in you, or end you. Valtar's capital gleamed under triple suns, its spires dwarfing slums. Elias's shuttle landed at the 7th shrine, crowds chanting below. Elders greeted him, leading him to a chamber where the Warden waited, fury barely contained. The trial began, a test of will. The Warden struck with a ritual staff, each blow meant to break. Elias stood fast, unmoving, pain flaring but fading. As his body healed, the Warden's rage grew. Fight! He screamed. Elias remained still, blood dripping. After countless strikes, the staff shattered against Elias's chest, his skin glowing faintly. The elders gasped. The third moon's restraint, one declared. The Warden drew a hidden blade, lunging. Elias caught his arm, voice calm. Enough! The Warden collapsed, defeated. The elders knelt. The sovereign is confirmed. Elias shook his head. No kneeling. We stand equal. The crowd outside roared, the news spreading like fire. On the shrine's balcony, Elias faced millions, Lyrian at his side. He spoke simply, I just gave her my coat. The words became a mantra, a symbol of change. Months later, Valthar's tears dissolved, a council rising in their place. Elias, a reluctant guide, stood with Lyrian, her hand on his. Pip and Grimm, prepared to leave, their mission done. Others need us, Pip said. Elias hugged them, these strange guardians who'd shaped his life. As their ship vanished, Lyrian teased, still doubt prophecies? Elias grinned, I believe in us. They kissed under Valthar's suns, the canvas coat hanging in the shrine below, a relic of a kindness that sparked a new dawn, its story unfolding still, with no end in sight. The Wanderer's veil lingered in high orbit above Valthar, its sleek, form a silent sentinel against the backdrop of the planet's triple sun. Below, the capital pulsed with new life. Streets once divided by tiered gates now flowed, with people mingling freely, their voices a chorus of cautious hope. Elias Kane stood on the frigate's observation deck, his canvas coat draped over a chair, its frayed edges a quiet testament to the storm that had changed everything. Lyrian joined him, her teal skin catching the starlight, her presence steady but charged with unspoken questions. "The council meets tomorrow," she said, her golden eyes flicking to his. "They'll want your guidance on the trade reform." Elias leaned against the viewport, the galaxy sprawling beyond. "I'm no politician," he said, voice low. "They need someone who knows systems, not symbols." Her lips curved faintly, that knowing smile he'd come to recognize, "and yet they look to you, not for laws, but for what you are." He shook his head, uncomfortable with the weight of it. "I'm just a guy who didn't let you die out there." Her hand brushed his arm, light but deliberate. "You're more than that, Elias. You always have been." The words hung between them, stirring memories of Kren 9's plasma storm, of her crumpled form against that boulder, of the moment he'd chosen to run into the chaos rather than away. He wanted to argue, to insist he was only a hauler caught in a cosmic current, but the truth was harder to dismiss now. Valthar was changing, because of him, or through him, or despite him. The lines blurred. Pip's voice broke the silence, small but sharp from the deck's entrance. "Council's not the only thing stirring." She stepped forward, Grim at her side, their oversized eyes glinting with purpose. Scans picked up a signal, encrypted, old Valthari code. "It's coming from the outer rim, near the old quarantine." "Zones," Grim's frown deepened. "It's not friendly. Warden loyalists maybe, or something else." Elias straightened, instincts flaring. "Something else." Pip nodded, her usual mischief replaced by focus. "The signal's got markers we haven't seen in a long time. Could be scavengers, could be mercenaries, could be..." She hesitated, glancing at Grim. "Something tied to you." Elias's jaw tightened. The questions about his origins, about what Pip and Grim knew, had simmered since the trial. He'd let them slide in the chaos of Valthar's rebirth, but they were bubbling up again. "Tied to me, how?" he asked, voice edged. Grim's gaze was steady, unyielding. "We don't know yet, but we'll find out." Elias studied them, these strange beings who'd been with him since he was a boy, pulling him from a burning outpost, guiding him through a life he'd never fully understood. "You're holding back," he said. Still, Pip's lips quirked, but there was no humor in it. "Some truths unfold slow, Elias. You're not ready for all of them." Lyrian stepped closer, her presence grounding. "Whatever it is, we face it together." Her voice was firm, but her eyes searched his, looking for the man who'd carried her through the storm, not the sovereign the crowds chanted for. Elias nodded, more for her than himself. "Fine. We investigate, but no heroics. We're not starting another war." Pip's grin returned, sly. "No promises." The Iron Sparrow slipped out of Valthar's orbit under cover of a meteor shower, its patched hull blending with the debris. Elias piloted manually, the controls familiar under his hands, a reminder of simpler days, hauling cargo across forgotten routes. Lyrian sat in the co-pilot seat, studying a star chart projected by Pip's crystalline shard. "The signal's origin is a derelict station in the quarantine zone," she said, "abandoned decades ago after a plague outbreak. No one goes there. Too many ghost stories." "Ghost stories don't send encrypted signals," Elias said, adjusting their trajectory. Grim, perched on a crate behind them, snorted. "Ghosts don't. Machines do, or people who want to stay hidden." Elias glanced at him. "You think it's a trap?" Grim's frown was answer enough. "I think nothing out here's ever what it seems." The quarantine zone loomed ahead, a graveyard of shattered hulks and silent stations orbiting a dying star. The Sparrow wove through the wreckage, its sensors pinging softly. Elias's gut tightened, not fear, but the sense of being watched. "There," Lyrian said, pointing to a scan. A faint energy signature pulsed from a station half collapsed, its structure a tangle of exposed beams and flickering lights. "That's our source." Elias eased the ship closer, docking clamps locking onto the station's airlock with a dull clang. "Pip, Grim, you're with me." "Lyrian, hold the Sparrow ready to bolt." She frowned, her sigil catching the console's glow. "I'm not staying behind." He met her gaze, seeing the resolve there. "All right, but we move quiet. No risks." She nodded, though her expression said she'd decide that for herself. The station's interior was a maze of decay. Corridors choked with debris, walls scored by time and neglect. Elias led the way, his canvas coat brushing against rusted panels. Pip's shard cast a soft glow, revealing traces of the signal's path. "It's deeper in," she whispered. "Core levels." Grimm's eyes darted to the shadows. "We're not alone." Elias felt it too, a prickle on his skin, like the air itself was holding its breath. They reached a sealed blast door, its control panel faintly active. Pip interfaced with it, her small hands moving faster than seemed possible. The door groaned, open, revealing a chamber lit by stuttering holodisplays. At its center stood a console, active and humming, its screen cycling through Valthari glyphs. Lyrian stepped forward, her breath catching. "This is pre-tier tech," she said. "From before the Warden's rise, forbidden archives." Elias paused, his canvas coat snagging on a jagged edge of the chamber's doorway, its worn fabric a quiet anchor in the station's cold hum. Each scuff and tear seemed to whisper of paths taken, risks faced, moments that shaped him without him even knowing. For a heartbeat, the glyph's glow felt far away, like the universe was giving him a second to breathe. "Yo, everyone, let's hold up for a sec. This coat's been through some stuff, right? Makes you think about what we carry along the way. What's one thing you've got? Maybe a beat-up jacket, a lucky charm that's stuck with you through life's wild moments. Toss it in the comments. I want to know what's got your back. If this story's grabbing you, hit that like button to keep the sparks flying and subscribe to roll with us for more. Cool, let's get back to it." The console's hum sharpened, pulling Elias's focus. He stepped closer, its glass surface catching his shadow as Lyrian's voice broke the silence. "This is it," she said, her tone heavy with something like dread. Elias approached the console, his reflection distorted in its glass. "What's it saying?" Lyrian's fingers traced the glyphs. "It's a record of the third moon's prophecy, but not the version we know." Her voice tightened. "It mentions a vessel, not just a sovereign, but something created, a bridge between worlds." She looked at Elias, eyes wide. "It's talking about you." Before he could process that, Grimm hissed, "Movement!" Shadows shifted at the chamber's edge, and figures emerged, cloaked, armed, their armor marked with no sigil Elias recognized. Their leader, a tall Valthari with a scarred face and one glowing eye, stepped forward. "You're the one they're singing about," he said, voice like gravel. "The Warden's bane." Elias kept his hands loose, voice steady. "We're not here for trouble, just answers." The leader's eye narrowed. "Answers are costly. You've stirred the galaxy, Kane. Not everyone wants your new dawn." He raised a pulse carbine. "Warden's gone, but his allies linger. They pay well for your head." Lyrian moved to Elias's side, defiant. "He's not alone." Pip and Grimm flanked them, silent but ready. Elias's senses sharpened, the room's details snapping into focus. The leader's twitchy trigger, finger, the faint hum of hidden drone. "Last chance," Elias said. "Walk away." The leader laughed, firing. The pulse bolt hit Elias's chest, sizzling harmlessly, his coat barely scorched. The others opened fire, but Elias was already moving, not striking, just redirecting. Carbine barrels bent, drones swatted aside, bodies sent sprawling with minimal force. In seconds, the attackers lay groaning, weapons useless. Elias stood untouched, breathing steady. "I asked nicely," he said, almost regretful. The leader, clutching a broken arm, stared up at him. "What are you?" Elias crouched, meeting his gaze. "Someone who wants to understand. Who sent you?" The man's jaw clenched, but fear won out. "No names, just credits. They said you're dangerous, not human." Elias's gut twisted, but he kept his face neutral. "Go, tell them I'm not their enemy, not yet." The man nodded, scrambling away with his crew. Lyrian touched Elias's shoulder. "You could have ended them." "You didn't." He shrugged, uncomfortable. "Didn't need to." Pip's voice was soft. "That's why it's you." Grimm gestured to the console. "We need to know what else is here." Lyrian resumed scanning, her expression darkening. "It's incomplete, but it says the vessel was hidden, protected by watchers, to awaken when the tears broke." Elias turned to Pip and Grimm. "Watchers, that's you, isn't it?" Pip's eyes flickered, almost sad, part of it. Grimm's frown deepened. "There's more to your story, Elias, but digging now might draw worse than mercenaries." Elias's frustration flared, but alarms cut him off. Station sensors screaming. "Proximity alert," Pip said, checking her shard. "Ships incoming." "Not Valthari." something older. They raced back to the Sparrow, the station shuddering as distant explosions echoed. Elias took the helm, Lyrian buckling in beside him. "What are we running from?" she asked. Grimm's voice was grim. "Not sure, but they're fast." The Sparrow tore free, weaving through the quarantine zone's debris as sleek, unmarked vessels pursued, their weapons charging with a sickly green glow. Elias pushed the engines, dodging fire, the stars blurring past. Back on Valthar, the council chamber buzzed with debate, but the air shifted when Elias entered, Lyrian at his side. The signal, the station, the attackers, it all pointed to something larger, something tied to him. Kyle stood, his axe resting nearby. "The rim's stirring," he said. "Rumors of shadow fleets moving beyond our scans." Vryn clutched a slate. Old texts mention keepers, forces guarding secrets the Tears buried. "If they're waking," Elias cut in, "then we find out why. But no wars, no crusades. We learn, we protect, we build." The room nodded, drawn to his calm, his refusal to command. Lyrian leaned close, whispering, "You're leading whether you want to or not." He met her gaze, the weight of her belief grounding him. "Then I do it my way." That night, in their private quarters, Elias stood by a window, Valthar's suns setting in a blaze of color. Lyrian joined him, her hand finding his. "Still think you're just a hauler?" she teased. He smiled, faint but real. "Maybe I'm starting to wonder," she laughed, pulling him close. Their kiss, a quiet defiance of the unknowns waiting. Beyond the stars, the Sparrow was prepped by dawn, loaded for a new journey, not to fight, but to seek. Pip and Grimm waited at the ramp, their eyes holding secrets they weren't ready to share. "Where to?" Elias asked, settling into the cockpit. Lyrian's fingers traced the star chart. "The signal's trail leads past the nebula. There's a relay station, ancient, off-grid. Answers might be there." Elias nodded, the engines humming to life. "Then we go." The Sparrow lifted off, Valthar shrinking behind them, the galaxy ahead vast and uncharted. Whispers of the canvas coat spread on stations, in markets, among rebels and dreamers. A symbol not of power, but of choice, of kindness, of a man who ran into storms and emerged carrying hope. Whatever lay ahead, Elias Kane wasn't running from it. Not anymore. The Iron Sparrow sliced through the nebula's edge, its hull reflecting. Swirls of violet and amber gas that churned like a cosmic storm. Elias Kane gripped the controls, his eyes scanning the sensor readouts as faint anomalies flickered at the periphery. The relay station Lyrian had pinpointed lay ahead, a ghost of ancient Valthari engineering hidden in the nebula's depths. Its signal pulsed irregularly, like a heartbeat struggling to stay steady. "We're close," Elias said, voice calm but laced with the tension that had been building since the quarantine zone. "Anything on scans?" Lyrian leaned over the co-pilot's console, her teal fingers dancing across the interface. "Interference is heavy, but their structure big, old, and powered. Barely." Her golden eyes flicked to him, carrying a mix of curiosity and caution. "Whatever's out there, it's been waiting a long time." Pip's small form perched on a crate behind them, her shard glowing faintly as she cross-referenced the signal. "It's pre-tier," she said, her usual playfulness muted. "Older than the Warden's reign, maybe older than Valthar's records." Grimm, standing beside her, crossed his spindly arms, his frown deeper than ever. "And it's not alone. I'm picking up residuals, shipwakes, recent. Someone else is sniffing around." Elias's jaw tightened, the memory of the unmarked. Vessels from the quarantine zone lingered, sleek, silent, and armed with tech he didn't recognize. "Friends of our mercenary pals?" he asked. Grimm's eyes narrowed. "Doubt it. These feel different, colder." The word hung in the cockpit, unsettling. Elias didn't press, but the questions about Pip and Grimm's knowledge. What? They weren't saying, gnawed at him. They'd called themselves Watchers, but what were they watching for? "Lock it down," Elias said, refocusing. "We go in quiet, get what we came for, and get out." Lyrian nodded, but her expression said she knew it wouldn't be that simple. The Sparrow dipped lower, threading through tendrils of nebula gas until the station came into view, a jagged spire of blackened alloy, half wreathed in ice, its surface pitted by centuries of micrometeor impacts. Dim lights flickered along its spine, and a single docking arm extended like a skeletal hand. Elias guided the ship in, clamps securing with a dull thud. The airlock hissed as it aligned, and he stood, pulling on his canvas coat. Its weight felt heavier now, as if it carried the echoes of every choice he'd made since Kren 9. "Pip, Grim, you're on tech." "Lyrian, with me. We find that signal's source." Lyrian checked her pulse pistol, a relic from Valthar's resistance, and met his gaze. "No heroics?" she asked, echoing his earlier words. He gave a half smile. "No promises." The station's interior was a tomb of frost and shadow. Corridors stretched endlessly, their walls lined with dormant hollow panels that flickered to life at their approach, casting eerie glows across the ice-slicked floor. Elias moved point, his senses sharp, catching every creak and hum. Lyrian followed, her breath visible in the chill, her sigil faintly luminous on her brow. Pip and Grim brought up the rear, Pip's shard scanning for the signal's path, while Grim's eyes darted to every corner, as if expecting ambush. "This place feels wrong," Lyrian murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. "Like it's watching us." Elias nodded, feeling it too. A pressure in the air, not quite sound, not quite movement, but something. "Stay close," he said, his hand brushing the wall for balance. The panel beneath his touch flared, projecting a fragmented Valthari glyph, a warning or maybe a welcome. "Pip," he called softly. She hurried forward, her shard sinking with the panel. "It's a log," she said, eyes narrowing. "Partially corrupted, but it mentions a cradle. Something hidden here meant to be protected." Grim's voice was sharp. "Protected from what?" Pip hesitated, a rare crack in her confidence. "Doesn't say, but it's tied to the vessel, the prophecy's core." Lyrian's gaze snapped to Elias. "You," he shook his head uneasy. "Let's not jump to stories. We need facts." But the word vessel echoed in his mind, stirring fragments of memory. His father's desperate shouts, Pip and Grim pulling him through smoke and fire, a life built on half-truths. He pushed it down, focusing on the corridor ahead. They reached a massive chamber, its ceiling lost in darkness. At its center stood a dais ringed by crystalline pillars that pulsed with faint energy. A console dominated the platform, its screen alive with cascading data. Valthari script mixed with symbols Elias didn't recognize, angular and cold. Lyrian approached, her fingers hovering over the controls. "This is it," she said, voice tight. "The signal's origin. It's broadcasting, but not to us. To something beyond the nebula." "Beyond?" Elias asked, joining her. She nodded, her expression troubled. "It's a beacon, calling something or someone." Pip climbed onto the dais, her shard interfacing directly with the console. Lines of data streamed across its surface, and her face paled. "It's not just a call, it's a key, unlocking something dormant." Grim's warning came too late. "Behind us!" The chamber's walls shuddered, panels sliding open to reveal drones, sleek, eyeless, their bodies glinting with that same sickly green from the quarantine zone ships. They moved with unnatural precision, energy weapons charging. Elias stepped in front of Lyrian, instincts flaring. "Stay back," he said, voice low but firm. The drones fired, beams lancing through the dark. Elias moved without thinking, his body a blur as he deflected the shots. Not with force, but with subtle shifts, the energy dissipating harmlessly around him. The drones recalibrated, advancing, but he was already among them, hands guiding their momentum. One crashed into a pillar, sparking. Another spun into the floor, its circuits frying. In moments, the chamber was silent again, the drones reduced to twitching husks. Lyrian stared, her pistol still raised, unused. "How do you do that?" she asked, awe mixing with frustration. Elias shrugged, catching his breath. "Just happens." Pip hopped down, her shard still linked to the console. "It's not just you," she said, voice urgent. "This place, it's coded to you. Your presence activated it." Grim's eyes locked onto Elias, and it's waking something else. The console flared, projecting a hollow map, not of Valthar or the nebula, but of a distant system, uncharted, where a single point pulsed red. "That's the beacon's target," Lyrian said, her voice barely steady. "Whatever's out there, it knows we're here now." Elias's gut twisted. "Shut it down." Pip tried, but the console resisted, its systems locked. "It's autonomous," she said. "We'd need more time, or more access." Grim's Frown was a warning. We don't have either. Sensors are picking up inbound signatures, same as the quarantine zone, but bigger. Then we move, Elias said, decisiveness cutting through the uncertainty. Back to the Sparrow, we figure this out away from here. They retraced their steps, the station's hum growing louder as if it resented their departure. The airlock was in sight when a new sound stopped them, a low, resonant pulse, like a giant waking from sleep. The corridor shook, lights flickering, and a voice, not human, not Valthari, but something layered and ancient, echoed through the walls. Vessel located, convergence initiated. Lyrian grabbed Elias's arm, her eyes wide. What was that? He didn't answer, his mind racing. Pip and Grim exchanged a glance, their silence louder than any words. Go, Elias said, pushing them toward the airlock. The Sparrow detached just as the station's lights surged, a wave of energy rippling outward. Elias floored the engines, the nebula's gas parting like a curtain as 3 ships emerged behind them, larger than before, their green-hued hulls pulsing in sync with the station's signal. Hold on, Elias muttered, weaving through asteroid fragments. Lyrian manned the defenses, firing decoy flares to throw off the pursuers' targeting. Pip and Grim worked the scanners, their voices overlapping. They're not shooting to kill, Pip said. They're hurting us. Grim's tone was grim. Toward that system, the red point, Elias's hands tightened on the controls. Not today. He banked hard, diving into a denser pocket of nebula gas, the Sparrow's hull groaning under the strain. The pursuers slowed, their signals fading, but Elias knew it wasn't over. We need distance, he said. Plot a jump. Anywhere but here. Lyrian hesitated, then nodded, inputting coordinates for a neutral trade hub far from Valthar's reach. The jump drive hummed, and the stars stretched into lines. In the silence that followed, Elias turned to Pip and Grim. That voice, Vessel. It meant me, didn't it? Pip's eyes softened, but she didn't deny it. Maybe, she said, but it's not just about you. It's about what you could become. Grim's voice was softer, almost regretful. We didn't choose this path, Elias. It chose you. Lyrian reached for his hand, her touch steadying. Whatever's out there, we'll face it, together. Elias met her gaze, the weight of her trust anchoring him. Yeah, he said, voice quiet but resolute. Together. The trade hub, Nexus 17, was a chaotic sprawl of platforms and neon, a melting pot of species and agendas. Elias docked the Sparrow in a low-profile bay, paying for anonymity. The station buzzed with rumors. Valthar's revolution, a sovereign who bent weapons bare-handed, a canvas coat that had become a rebel sigil. Elias kept his head down, but eyes followed them, whispers trailing like shadows. In a cramped safe house, Lyrian spread out data slates salvaged from the station. The beacon's target is in the Erendor system, she said. No colonies, no trade routes, just nothing, according to charts. Pip's shard glowed as she cross-referenced. Not nothing, she said. Old records, pre-Valthari, mention a vault sealed by something called the Concordance. Grim's frown deepened. Concordance isn't a myth. It's real and dangerous. Elias leaned forward, frustration breaking through. Enough half answers. What's the Concordance? And what does it want with me? Pip sighed, setting her shard down. It's not a what, it's a who, or was. A collective, ancient, tasked with balancing the galaxy's power. They made things like you, like me, Elias repeated, the words heavy. Grim nodded. Prototypes, blends of life, meant to guide, not rule. Most didn't survive. You did. Lyrian's hand found his, squeezing gently. Why him? She asked. Pip's eyes were distant. Because he was kind. Because he chose to be. Elias stood pacing. So I'm some experiment, and now this Concordance is waking up because I broke their precious tears. Grim's voice was sharp. Not just the tears. You broke their plan. The prophecy wasn't theirs. It was a warning about you. Before Elias could respond, the safe house's alarms blared. Kyle's voice crackled through a comm. Elias, we've got trouble. Ships just dropped in. Same green-hued tech. They're locking down the hub. Elias grabbed his coat, the fabric grounding him. Get the Sparrow ready, he said to Lyrian. to Pip and Grim. "You're telling me everything when this is done." They move through Nexus 17's crowded arteries, dodging patrols as the station's lights flickered under an unseen strain. The green-hued ships loomed in the docking bays, their crews cloaked, silent, moving with purpose. Elias's group reached the Sparrow just as a figure stepped from the shadows. Not Valthari, not human, its form shifting like liquid metal. "Vessel," it said, voice layered like the station's echo. "You cannot outrun convergence." Elias faced it, his stance loose but ready. "I'm not running, but I'm not yours to claim." The figure tilted its head as if curious, then dissolved into mist, leaving only a hum in the air. Lyrian's eyes were wide. "What was that?" Elias didn't answer, ushering them aboard. The Sparrow roared to life, breaking free as the hub's defenses faltered under the strange ship's influence. In hyperspace, Elias sat in the cockpit, staring at the stars. Lyrian joined him, her presence a quiet strength. "You're not alone in this," she said. He nodded, but his mind was on the figure's words, convergence. Whatever it meant, it was coming for him, for Valthar, for everything he'd fought to protect. Pip and Grim watched from the shadows, their silence heavy with truth still unspoken. The Sparrow headed for Erendor, not out of choice, but necessity. The vault, the concordance, the prophecy, they were pieces of a puzzle Elias didn't want but couldn't ignore. Whispers of his name spread further, on Valthar, in Nexus 17's bars, among rebels dreaming of a galaxy remade. The canvas coat, patched and worn, hung in the cockpit, a reminder that it had all started with a single act, a choice to shield another from the storm. Whatever lay ahead, Elias Kane wasn't just a hauler anymore. He was a question the universe was still answering, one step at a time with no end in sight. The Iron Sparrow emerged from hyperspace near the Erendor system, a desolate stretch of void where no star dared to linger. Elias Kane steadied the controls, his canvas coat slung over the pilot's seat, its frayed edges catching the cockpit's dim glow. Beside him, Lyrian scanned the sensors, her teal skin taut with focus. "The vault signal is stronger," she said, golden eyes narrowing. "It's on that moon. Barren, no atmo." Pip's voice piped up from behind, her shard pulsing faintly. "Old tech, buried deep, not Valthari. Older, Grim, ever dour, leaned against a bulkhead. And it's awake because of you, Elias. Those green-hued ships aren't far behind." Elias's jaw clenched. The concordance, whatever they were, had dogged them since Nexus 17, their cryptic pursuit tied to the vessel prophecy that wouldn't leave him alone. "We find the vault, get answers, and go," he said. "No detours." Lyrian's hand brushed his, a quiet anchor. "You sure about this?" He gave a tight nod. "Sure as I can be." The Sparrow descended toward the moon, a cracked orb of grey stone and shadow. Scans showed a subsurface structure, angular, alien, its energy signature humming like a warning. Elias landed near a fissure, dust swirling around the ship's struts. "Pip, Grim, you're with me. Lyrian, keep the engines hot." Her eyes flashed defiance, but she relented. "Don't take long." The moon's surface was a maze of jagged rock, the airless void pressing against their suits. Elias led, his visor reflecting Pip's shard as it guided them to a sealed hatch half buried in stone. Grim's voice crackled over the comm. "This feels like a trap." Elias didn't argue. He felt it too, a prickle that wasn't just the cold. Pip interfaced with the hatch, its locks grinding open to reveal a tunnel sloping into darkness. Inside, the walls glowed faintly, etched with symbols that twisted the eye, neither Valthari nor human, but something primal. The air vibrated, a low pulse that set Elias's teeth on edge. "This is it," Pip whispered, her shard sinking with a terminal at the tunnel's end. A hollow flared to life, showing a chamber below, a vault, its core glowing green, like the concordant ships. "That's what they're after." Lyrian's voice came through the comm, tense. "It's calling something." Elias studied the hollow. "Calling what?" Before Pip could answer, Grim hissed, "Company." Shadows moved at the tunnel's mouth, figures in sleek, reflective suits, their weapons humming with that sickly green. Their leader's voice echoed, layered and cold. "Vessel, you cannot delay the balance." Elias stepped forward, hands loose. "I'm not your vessel. Talk or walk away." The figures fired, energy bolts lancing through the dark. Elias moved instinctively, deflecting shots with subtle twists, his suit unmarred. He didn't strike, only disarmed. One figure stumbled, another's weapon crumpled in his grip. In moments, they retreated, vanishing into the tunnel. Lyrian's voice was sharp. Elias, ships just dropped in orbit. We're out of time. He turned to Pip. What's in that vault? Her eyes flickered. Records. Of you, your kind, created to shift galaxies, not rule them. Grimm's frown deepened. Open it and the Concordance knows everything. Leave it and they'll keep hunting. Elias's gut twisted. Then we shut it down. Pip shook her head. It's tied to you. Your presence powers it. The pulse grew louder, the walls trembling. Elias made a call. Back to the Sparrow. We'll deal with this off-world. They ran, the tunnel quaking as green light bled from the cracks. The ship was airborne when Concordance vessels closed in, their fire grazing the hull. Elias banked hard, diving through the moon's rings, debris scattering the pursuers. Jump cords now, he barked. Lyrian punched them in, and the stars blurred. Safe in hyperspace, Elias faced Pip and Grimm. No more secrets. What am I? Pip's voice was soft. A spark, human but woven with something ancient. Meant to choose, not control. Grimm's eyes held rare warmth. Your father hid you. We guarded you. The Concordance wants to use you or end you. Lyrian's hand found his, steady. They won't get either. Elias exhaled, the weight settling. Where to? Lyrian's lips curved. A rebel outpost, edge of known space. They'll shelter us, plan the next move. He nodded, the Sparrow humming onward. Whispers of the canvas coat spread on moons in cantinas. A tale of a man who defied fate with kindness, his story unfinished, pulling others into its orbit. The Iron Sparrow dropped from hyperspace near a rogue asteroid cluster, its engines growling low. Elias Kane scanned the void, canvas coat slung over his chair. Lyrian's fingers flew across the console. Rebel outpost is close, hidden in the rocks. Her teal skin gleamed, eyes sharp. Signals clean, but I don't trust it. Pip's shard flickered. Concordance is still out there. They're tracking the vault's echo. Grimm's scowl deepened. Or him. Elias's gut tightened. The moon's vault had confirmed it. He wasn't just human, but a key to something vast. Ancient. We meet the rebels. Regroup. Figure out what's next, he said, voice steady. The asteroid loomed, a jagged maze shielding a docked frigate. Elias landed smoothly, dust swirling. Pip Grimm scanned for threats. Lyrian with me. She nodded, pulse pistol ready. The outpost's airlock hissed open, revealing a grizzled rebel, jaw scarred, wary. You're the sovereign? He asked, eyeing Elias. Not a sovereign, Elias said, just here to help. Jaw grunted, leading them into a cavern lit by flickering hollow maps. Rebels, Valthari, humans, others watched, hope and doubt mixing. A woman, Vera, stepped forward, data slate glowing. The Concordance hit 3 outposts. They're closing in. Elias studied the maps. What do they want? Vera's gaze locked on him. You. The vault woke their network. They think you'll tip the balance. Pip's voice cut in, urgent. Proximity alert, green-hued ships. Grimm's eyes narrowed. Told you! Alarms wailed. Elias moved. Get to your ships. We draw them off. Jaw hesitated, then nodded. You're not what I expected. The Sparrow launched as Concordance vessels emerged, their weapons charging. Elias weaved through asteroids, Lyrian firing decoys. A voice, layered, cold, crackled through. Vessel, submit. Elias didn't flinch. Not today. He dove into a nebula's edge, losing them in the haze. In the quiet, he faced Pip and Grimm. What's the network? Pip sighed. A failsafe. If you act, it resets. Worlds. Tears. All of it. Lyrian's hand gripped his. We'll stop it. He nodded, plotting a new course. An uncharted relay whispered in rebel tale. The Sparrow hummed, carrying a man, a coat, a choice, unresolved, pulling the stars along. Elias ran into storms, others fled, his coat a shield for the lost. Valthar's changed, but the galaxy's still humming with untold tales, hungry for more sci-fi heroes defying fate. Another adventure's ready, brimming with epic stakes. Click through to chase the next star.